set us up, and in this episode we're going to add storage to our NAS device. We're going to add it to our LVM group that we initially put on the device, and we'll also switch over and do different RAIDs, including mirror and a RAID 5. So with that, let's dive in. Okay, the first example we're going to do is just adding space to the NAS volume group, which is currently 1 terabyte with 1 drive. So I'm going to add in another drive with 1 terabyte and expand the volume to 2 terabytes. Now this is not RAID, this is just expanding the volume. So data is going to be written to one drive, the first drive, until that drive fills up, and then data will be written to the second drive. No redundancy. And as a side bonus, we can do all of this from webmin. We don't have to do any command line. And I've already got webmin fired up on the browser here. So let's go to hardware and we'll look at partitions on local disks. And as you can see, this is our OS drive. Here's our 1 terabyte drive that we've been using as our storage. And here's the new 1 terabyte drive that I've added into the NAS computer. So what we need to do is create a partition table on this drive. And it's easy as create the table. It needs to know the format. If it's a larger disk, we would use GPT. Otherwise, we'll just use DOS. None of these others apply. So we'll wipe it, relabel it, done. So I don't think we need to add a partition, but we'll find out. Let's go back to the logical volume management interface. Here's our NAS, and as you can see, it's 1 terabyte. That's the volume group. The volumes that are in the group right now, there's only one. It's our original one at 1 terabyte. So we want to add a physical volume to the NAS. So we'll click on that. Oh no, it does not see the device yet. So let's go back to partitions and let's create a primary partition. It doesn't have a type because it's going to be part of the LVM, the logical volume management, and we'll let it handle it. So we're going to go with 9 and we'll use the entire disk, create. Okay. Not sure why it put LEXT. I thought I selected 9. I don't think it really matters. So let's go back to logical volume management, physical volumes, add. There it goes. It sees it. 1 terabyte. Says all data is going to be erased. Of course, we know that. And it is going to be enabled for allocation. We don't have to force anything. We'll add. Okay, so now we have our original disk and we have our next disk. Our new disk, sorry. So let's go to the logical volume. We see the logical volume still only sees 1 terabyte. So we'll go in here and we're going to resize. As you can see, the blocks allocated, we've got half. So, and it only sees the physical volume of our original. So what we'll do is we are going to, let's do use all, save. There we go. Now we got 2 terabytes. If we click on it, we can see now we've got SDC1, which is our new drive, and the old drive. And at this point, we're done. Our volume group is now 2 terabytes. And if we wanted to verify all this, we could just secure shell in. We can run df-h to look at our volumes, and boom, 2 terabytes. 11 gigabytes are in use, and if we go to NAS, all of our data is there. But now we have 2 terabytes. That's as easy it is, just to add space. Now we didn't have to add an exact 1 terabyte to this. We could have bought, say, a 3 terabyte drive and added it in, and you'd have a 1 terabyte plus 3 terabytes gives you 4 terabytes. And you could do that. You can add as many disks as you want in. Just remember, this is not RAID. There's no redundancy. And if you lose a disk, then all the data on that disk is gone. So, but that's how you can expand your your storage easily. But now we'll continue to the next scenario. We're going to do a RAID mirror. But I have to reset everything, so 1 sec. Okay, in this scenario, we've got our 1 terabyte drive for our NAS storage, and we want to create a mirror of it onto our new 1 terabyte hard drive we just put into the system. Unfortunately, we can't use webmin to do this. We got to drop the command line. So let's launch PuTTY. I'm going to log in. And let's increase the screen a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Now, there's going to be a lot of commands here, so I'm going to use a little trick to get root access for the whole session. It's called sudo, and then I'm going to launch a script called bash, or script environment. Put in my password, and as you can see, I'm now root, and will be until I exit. So there's a good and bad side to this, I know, but I'm only doing this for my LVM changes, and then I'll be done. So, okay, first thing, let's look at fdisk, and we're going to show the current partitions. So as we can see, we got drive SDC, that's our new 1 terabyte drive, and there are no partitions on it. There's SDA, this is our OS drive, so we got our swap file and our boot drive and the root. And then we have SDB, which is our 1 terabyte drive that is in use, and as you can see, it is set up in the LVM. So what we want to do is we need to add SDC to the LVM as a mirror. So let's look at our volume group, and of course it only is NAS, and it has a size of less than 1 terabyte, slightly less than 1 terabyte, and with 4 megabytes free. And if we look at our physical volume, we only have the NAS, right? So, excuse me, we can also use PV display, and this shows a little more. So we only have the 1 physical volume. So what we want to do is we want to add SDC to the LVM. So the first thing we need to do is we got to create a partition on SDC that is LVM compatible. So there's a command called pv create, and we just give it the device name, SDC. We're done. So if we look back at fdisk, and we don't see any changes yet. If we look at PVS, we do see that the SDC of 1 terabyte is now recognized, but it is not assigned to a volume group. So what we need to do is we need to extend our volume group to use SDC. So we're going to use a command called vg extend, and our volume group name is NAS. We put that, and we're going to put the device SDC extended. So now we go back and look at PVS. We see that SDC is now in the NAS group, and there's a terabyte free. And if we look at the volume group, we see that the size is now 2 terabytes with 1 terabyte free. Well, that's all well and good, but we're not extending the size here. We're creating a mirror. And the way we do that is with a conversion. We want to convert our what's called a linear group to a mirror group. So we're going to do LV convert, and we're going to specify a mirror. We want 1. You can actually set up multiple drives to have multiple mirrors with LVM, but in this case we only have 1 drive, so we're just going to create 1 mirror, and it's on the volume group NAS and the logical volume NAS. And it's asking, are you sure you want to convert? and we want yes, done. And we're done. That's all there is to it. If we want to go back and look, we got PVS. Notice now that SDC has nothing free. If we go to VGS, we see that we have 2 terabytes that's allocated in NAS, but 0 free. If we look at our hard drive space, the NAS is still 1 terabyte. And everything that we write to the NAS from now on is mirrored to both hard drives. If one hard drive fails, we're still good. The other drive takes over. And it doesn't matter which one that fails because they have identical copies of data. Of course, if both of them fail, then we're in trouble. That's why we have backups. And that will be a future video. But in this case, it really didn't take too much to create a mirror drive. Now let's say we want to break our mirror and convert back. Okay, the command actually has one more parameter. You have to specify the drive, or the not the drive, but the device that you're going to remove. So I could remove SDC. I could also remove SDB1, but we're going to remove the new drive. And it says, so we're going to convert the RAID 1 back to type linear and lose all resilience. Yep, done. So if we look, SDC is now free, but it's still assigned to the volume group. Excuse me. And the volume group is still showing that we have 2 terabytes. But let's go ahead and remove everything. The command is VG reduce, and the VG is NAS, and we're going to reduce it by this device. All right, so if we look at now our volume group is showing a size of 1 terabyte. If we do PVS, we still show that the SDC is got an LVM2 format on it. So we could use fdisk or some other tool and just wipe that partition off if we want. But at this point, we're done. So that's the second scenario where we created a mirror, and we also destroyed the mirror. Okay, the last scenario I want to show you is how to set up a RAID 5. And RAID 5 basically gives us the combination of mirroring with striping. Striping is where parts of the data are written to each hard drive, and this gives us a performance boost. And then the mirroring makes copies of the data. So in this case, if we lose a hard drive, we still have a stripe set. If we lose a second hard drive after that, then we might be in trouble. But with the RAID 5, we get a performance boost with the redundancy. I mean, you can set up a RAID 0, which is just a stripe set, which gives you a performance boost, but you have no redundancy, and if either drive in a stripe set goes down, you lose it. So RAID 5 is, especially for a home network, is probably going to be the best that you want to try. I mean, you can also go to RAID 10 and so forth, but you're talking about a lot of hardware. Probably something a little bit beyond what we need to do at home. But anyway, one issue we have is that LVM does not support RAID 5. It only supports striping and mirror. So what we need to do is convert our existing LVM over to RAID. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but the very first thing we need to do is I'm going to drop into my root environment, and as I said, I really don't recommend doing this, but I don't feel like typing sudo every single time and forgetting about typing sudo every single time, so try to keep the screen clear. Okay, so first thing, let's take a look at our drives. So with fdisk, we see we got SDA, which is basically our OS drive. It's got our swap, boot, and root. We got SDB, which is our 1 terabyte drive, which is currently got an LVM
partition on it, and our data. So we got SDC, 1 terabyte drive with nothing on it. SDD, which is another 1 terabyte drive with nothing on it. And then down here is the NAS LVM, which does show up in the F disk. Now, for RAID 5, you got to have a minimum of 3 drives. You can have more, but in this case, I got 3. Each drive is 1 terabyte. And they do need to be the same size. Actually, that's not true. If they are bigger, then you just waste the extra space. If they're smaller, you can't set it up. So basically, make them the same size. Okay, so first thing we need to do is create a RAID. And in order to do that, we've got to download the software because it doesn't come with the minimal ISO. So we're going to use yum, and we're going to install MDADM. Now, if you ask me what MDADM stands for, I will have to Google that because I do not know. I guess while it's installing. Manage, is that what it is? Manage monitor software RAID. Yeah, and one thing to note here, this is a software RAID. There are drive enclosures you can buy which have RAID hardware built into them. I don't have that available here. And so if you're interested in doing that, you will get extra performance because your computer's not having to do so much work. Look into it, and maybe that's something I'll tackle in a future video if I can get some subscribers who will give me a little money so I can buy some hardware. Anyway, I digress. So it's asking us to approve the install, so yes. Okay, we're done. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the MDADM to create a new device, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it MD0. That's usually the standard. And I'm going to give it the RAID level, and that's going to be, 5. And how many devices are going to be in this? Let's see if I spell. And there's going to be 3, right? And I'm going to specify dev/SDC and dev/SDD. And then where's the third device? Well, you might say, oh, it's the SDB, right? Well, not yet, because it currently has an LVM on it with our data. And when you create these RAID devices, data gets wiped. So we're not going to add it in yet. And fortunately, we can specify missing. And it's okay to create a RAID 5 with a drive missing. What it's going to do basically is create a stripe set, and then we can add in the drive later. And then it will rebuild itself into the full RAID 5. So we'll hit enter, and we're done. Pretty quick, huh? So if we go to F disk, list it out again, we see now we've got a device MD0 that's got 2 terabytes in size, which makes sense. We just added 2 drives to it. So, excuse me. Now we need to create a file system on this. So we'll use the makefs-ext. We'll create the ext4 file system on it. And we're going to give it dev/md0. And shouldn't take it very long. Okay, we're done. Now we need to mount it. And we're just going to, this is kind of a temporary mount for now. Because when we swap everything over, it's going to be called NAS, and so there's no issues with any of our existing software. So there's a folder called MNT, short for mount. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to create a folder that I'm going to mount this on. So we can call it, I'll just call it temp. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to mount MD0 to temp. Done. So if we look Going to temp, of course we're not going to see anything except a blank file system. And if we look at our drives, we now have dev MD0 with 2 terabytes available, 84 megs in use, and it's mounted on MT temp. Good. So now we need to get the data from our existing LVM that's on NAS over to this new RAID 5. How can we do that? Well, there is a very simple command we can issue, and it is called copy. It's actually the best way to do it. So we're just going to copy, and I'm going to make it verbose so we can see what was going on. And the source is NAS, and the destination is mnt/temp, and away we go.
Okay, now we can proceed to destroy our LVM. But first we need to shut down the software that's accessing the NAS mount. And that would be the Samba, providing the Windows shares, OwnCloud, which is simply Apache, and Plex. So let's do that real quick. It's simply going to be turning off the services. System controls stop, SMB, NMB, that's Samba, Plex Media Server, that's Plex, and HTTPD, that's OwnCloud. All right, so now we can proceed to get rid of our LVM. So first, let's see, we'll try LV remove. Still in use, huh? Oh, maybe I gotta get rid of the mount point. Let's see, mount. Where are we? What is mounted to NAS? Okay, so I'm gonna go unmount. All right, let's take care of that. Now we're gonna do the remove. Okay, remove the logical volume. Now we need to deactivate the volume group. And then we can remove it. And now we can remove, let's see, we're going to remove the LVM from our SDB1 device. There we go. So let's fdisk dev SDB. All right, so if we run fdisk and we gave it the actual device, so let's look at the command D, partition 1 deleted. Let's see, print the partition table, there's nothing, so let's write. We're done. Let's see if we can add it now. Oh, I'm sorry. We're added. So now we're good. Let's use our command to take a look at the RAID array. Okay. So one way we can do it is look at this. There we go. Active RAID 5. So it looks like it's building the RAID after we've added the new drive, which would be correct. But here's MD0 active. It is a RAID 5. Here are the devices in it. It is saying it will finish in 457 minutes. But when we can still use it, and matter of fact, if we go here to temp, we see we have a folder called NAS, and it has all of our data in it. So what we can do now, let's get out. So we got a folder called NAS, which is where everything was. Notice it's not. So we can unmount our temp mount point, and then pointing at NAS. So let's do that. Okay. Now we'll do a mount on NAS dev. Actually, it's dev MD0 to NAS. All right. I messed something up. There we go. Golly. All right, let's see if we can mount now. There we go. Okay, so important safety tip. We have to reload system control after we make those changes, so it's aware that the mount point NAS is no longer being used by the LVM. Now we got one problem. The copy command I did put it into a subfolder called NAS inside of the NAS, and that's not how it's supposed to be. So we need to do a move. Let's see. Here's our data. All right. I didn't. Yep. Okay. So now we can remove NAS. And we're back to the way we were, except we need to start up our services again. Excuse me. And finally, Apache. Okay, so let's test some stuff. First, let's see if we can get to our folders. Yep. Yep, that looks good. We should be able to get to OnCloud. There's our login. So we have successfully converted from our LVM to a RAID 5. In this case, the RAID 5, 3 hard drives, all 1 terabyte. It's using a software RAID array. Software RAID. It's always preferable to use a hardware RAID, and you can definitely buy hardware that will do that for us. But in this case, with this server, software RAID will be perfectly fine, and we will have no problems reading and writing files. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, and share this video. So in the next video, I'm going to show how we can do encryption on our RAID array in this case, but it would also apply to the LVM if we were using that. Perhaps I'll go back and show that too. So until then, hope you have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.